most striking in all that testimony was so many individual small business owners came to the meetings and talked to us about what their tax status was, and so we didn't just listen to the big three or the large firms. We had dozens upon dozens of small business owners, from Bronner's up in Frankenmuth to the small, lots of insurance agents and people that basically downtown Michigan, and we listened to all of them, and so we didn't leave too many stones unturned, I don't think, at all.
No, we certainly didn't, and I remember specifically hearing from, I believe it was Doug Rothwell, who is now CEO or president of Detroit Renaissance, and he talked to us about the gazelles of companies, those that are, just starting out, but they're innovative, creative, and they want to go and run and be productive if they had just a little help. And that kind of sunk in our minds as we were looking at knowing what drives an economy and what diversifies economy so badly, sorely needed in Michigan is the small business sector. And I'm talking about firms, companies under 500 employees. So we really, you and I especially, were very focused on them. And then we had more hearings around the state. The House Tax Policy Committee and the Senate Finance Committee went around the state. We took it on the road, listened to more people, more input. We had a small group meeting about 2 years ago with our then treasurer, Jay Rising, and a leading House Democrat, myself as a Republican senator, and our policy staffs, you and Nat from over in the House, and we met all summer. Some of that seemed to have its ups and its downs, but that's politics. As a result of that, we did see a bill pass, and the governor signed, provided more, I think, relief, mainly to the manufacturing sector at that time. But we knew there was more to do. And with the coming of the petition drive that said we're ending the SBT, the end of 2007, we then really got down to work. We had a economic growth, positive growth committee, another one, committees and upon committees, I understand that. But it was now becoming much more focused between the House and the Senate. Finally, it ended up this year. Now, fast forward to 2007. And in January, I introduced, along with the help and work that you and I had been doing for at least a good 8 months prior to that, we released what we call the Senate Republican Plan, or BESS, the Business and Economic Stimulus Tax. So it was out there for a good 3-4 months. We worked on it. We thought it was very competitive, very pro-growth. It even would have provided a substantial tax cut, which we believed would stimulate the economy. Well, as you know, in any political process, there will be other plans that come forward, and there were many, from the Detroit Chamber, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, the Grand Rapids Chamber, and then finally the House Democrats came up with their own plan. The governor had her plan, and we were awash in plans.
Yes, we were.
Plain and simple. And so our next challenge, I think, was to get together with the House Democrats and form a work group of 8 legislators, 4 Democrats, 3 from the House, and is that correct? 3 from the House and 1 from the Senate.
Yes.
And then, of course, 3 Republican senators, myself as a co-chair, and then a Republican from the House, Brian Calley. And we spent hundreds of hours through May and June hammering it out to reach a compromise agreement. And that's what I think we should talk about a little now.
Okay.
Is it perfect?
Not
No,
quite.
not quite.
Not quite.
Is any plan ever 100% perfect? No.
No.
But it has some major, major positive elements that I do believe will spur Michigan forward, make us more competitive with other states, especially Midwestern states that are out there, not only enticing jobs and enticing industries, but also trying to outdo us with credits and incentives. So we, I think, have put together a plan that, of course, we're going to need to wait a year or so to see how it really, really lives up to expectations. But let's talk about it a little. And the people of this state, I think, will be, as it unfolds, increasingly become more aware of what we tried to do. So Howard, with that introduction, why don't you hit some of the high points that we feel we got some of our major core principles embedded in this new Michigan business tax.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we tried to do, which you talked about earlier, was impact the business sector for firms that are growing fast. And we don't know whether it's going to be a software firm that takes off or a manufacturing firm that takes off, but we do know typically that they're among those smaller firms. And so we gave tax relief for firms with gross receipts or sales under $20 million by lowering their overall rate from 2% to 1.9% and making them immune from the larger tax scheme, which was 0.8% modified gross receipts tax or margins tax and a 4.95% income tax. And so in doing that and providing relief, it was somewhere around 90,000 firms that we think will have a tax cut out of 160,000 or so. And so giving them a tax cut was something that was always part of your agenda to stimulate the economy. And we know no one is smart enough to micromanage and pick winners and losers. I mean, that's been proven over and over again. So the best thing that we could do was to provide relief for everybody across the board, which is fair, and then hope that those firms will innovate and create the kind of jobs that we need and continue to diversify our economy. That was a huge aspect. And we did inject that into the plan that we ended up passing. The other thing was your Me2 credit, which was a very important credit, which says that regardless of what kind of firm you are, with a few exceptions, if you create 20 jobs and invest, I think it was $1.25 million in Michigan, you'll be exempt from taxes for 3 years. And we kind of played around back and forth with that, whether they'd have to requalify every year or not. We kind of decided that we'd just say, look, if you do this one time, you've got a 3-year exemption. That's it. You don't have to requalify. The only disqualifier would be is if you decreased your employment after that point. But that was a very important credit that we sort of, how to put it, supercharged the small business treatment by doing that. So that was a huge piece that the Senate Republicans injected, primarily your notions, that we injected into the overall plan to stimulate the economy. Of course, we also gave a host of credits, which mostly came from the House Democratic side, to the large manufacturers in the state, which would give them more cash flow so that they can reinvest in their business, do the strategic things that they need to do to get market share going back the other way. Every dollar to those firms is very, very important. And by increasing their cash flow, by giving them these credits, I think that they'll be more competitive and be able to meet competition from Europe and Japan and Asia much more effectively, and we went along with that. We always wanted to help our manufacturing base as much as possible, but what we were balancing was equity. We wanted everybody to benefit as much as possible, not just one sector, manufacturing or pharmaceuticals, but we wanted to be as equitable as possible.
And